of our heritage sound.
The mixture of a rich cultural heritage is what gives a spectacular enrichment to the Asalamaha Perahara. And the music accompanied by various instruments is what adds dignity to it. So wishing you nothing other than a very good morning and hoping you're safe at home. Today we divert our attention to talk about the importance of music in connection to Sri Lankan ancestry and tradition. So in order to enlighten us in this topic, today we have welcomed Mr. Ravibandu Vidyapathi. Good morning, sir.
Good morning and Aibowan.
Aibowan. So yes, as I've mentioned, now history cannot be taken separately from the customs and traditions that follows. But it of course has to be a connection. Philosophy, culture, tradition is what makes it something strong. So sir, diverting the attention like that, first of all, let's start our conversation talking a bit about the history and evolution of the Dalada Perahara.
Well, talking about the history of the Dalada Perahara, it would be noteworthy to start with the advent of the sacred tooth relic or the Dalada to Sri Lanka.
Of course, sir.
This was brought by Princess Hemamala and Prince Danta. Now, yes. The story behind this is that the father of Hemamala, King Guhasiva, who was the ruler of Kalinga,
yes,
had the Sri Daladava or the sacred tooth relic in his possession, and when he was harassed and attacked by the Pandya kings, he decided to send the sacred tooth relic to Sri Lanka,
yes,
in order to protect it. So he entrusted this task to his daughter and son-in-law, and they, with great respect, came down to Sri Lanka, protecting the sacred tooth relic. And this was in the reign of King Kirti Sri Meghavanna, or better known as Kitsiri Mevan,
yes,
in the year 310 AD. So since then, we have been the most fortunate nation to have the sacred tooth relic,
yes, sir,
in our possession. So from that day onwards, it was considered that the monarch who had the sacred tooth relic in his possession was powerful,
yeah,
and secure. Therefore, all the kings throughout the history from Anuradhapura period to the Kandy period have protected the tooth relic and have built magnificent shrine rooms to keep the tooth relic.
Yes, sir.
And of course they considered the tooth relic as the priority, even greater than their lives. So the monarchs and the Mahasangha always considered this as the priority. So the Mahasangha has always had the greatest contribution towards this. And throughout history, starting from Anuradhapura period, we've had 9 kingdoms in our history. Anuradhapura, then came Polonnaruwa, yes, and Yapahua, Kurunagala, Gampola. Of course, before that there was Dambadeniya, and Kotte, Sitavaka, and finally the Kandyan kingdom. And during all these times, of course, we had the foreign invasions, of course, during Anuradhapura, and especially during Polonnaruwa period, there were the South Indian invasions.
Yes.
And from 16th century onwards, we had the Western invasions, first the Portuguese and then the Dutch, and then finally the British, who colonized for the longest period of time.
Yes.
But during all these difficult periods, it was the priority of the king to protect. Sometimes by taking it away from the capital, hiding it in secret places. So they took all the troubles to protect the sacred tooth relic. And all these kings, during their time, paid great reverence, homage to the tooth relic. Now, there is a whole set of code of conduct.
Yes.
As to how the homage to the tooth relic must be done and paid is mentioned in the literal work called the Dalada Sirita.
Yes.
And they built magnificent palaces to keep the Daladava or the tooth relic. Mm-hmm. And within that, there grew a great culture around the Daladava or the sacred tooth relic.
Yes.
And the music that you just mentioned in your introduction has become an integral part of that culture.
Yes. As in, it is as if I've mentioned, it is already connected with each other. That means the culture and the tradition is along with the history that we have in connection to the sacred tooth relic.
You are exactly right, yes. I mean, all this is created and practiced by man. Mm-hmm. Of course, man creates history, man creates cultures,
yes,
and man creates the traditions within those cultures, and he also creates the different arts and crafts within those traditions.
And they promise to follow them, the other generations as well.
Yes, of course. I mean, the human being is, man is a being that is naturally inclined to repeat things.
Yes.
And that is how great cultures and great traditions within those cultures have emerged, because man always repeated what he liked, what he thought was important, made it a repeated happening.
Yes.
Thus, the traditions were created. And we Sri Lankans have been a nation that have kept the traditions alive for thousands of years.
Along with the history?
Along with the history.
Yes. So now, since we just talked about the tradition and culture with this history along, since our topic today would be directing our attention to music.
Right.
Let's also talk about the origin and evolution of the music, how Sri Lankans got it and how they are being following the tradition as if
okay, before the advent of Buddhism,
yes,
it is known that we had some basic or some uniquely Sri Lankan traditions of music. Mm-hmm. Be it primal or primitive, if I may use the word. But there was this unique tradition of music and dance, the rituals. But we consider that the real, the whole gamut of sophisticated artistic practice,
yes,
came to us after the advent of Buddhism. It is said that when Theri Sangamitta brought the Sri Mahabodhi sapling
Yes.
of the Bodhi tree,
Yes, sir.
there came people of different service guilds to do the services to the Bodhi sapling.
18 of them.
There were 18 guilds
Yes.
of people,
Yeah.
and among those 18, there were the Gandharva Kula, or the Gandharva guild of people who came down, the dancers and musicians. Gandharvas are the dancers and musicians, as it is mentioned even in the ancient Indian literature.
Yeah.
So the Gandharvas who came here continuously paid tribute and homage to the Buddha, to the Bodhi sapling,
Yeah.
the Bodhi tree, by playing music. And the music, the word music covers Swara Sangeet, that is music with notes, Tala Sangeet, or the Rhythma Sangeet. Rhythma is of course a much later addition to our Sinhala language, but it is
Okay.
basically Tala Sangeet.
Yeah.
That is the music that was played by percussion instruments, drums and percussion, which has become the major tradition of Sri Lanka's music, the drums. And we believe that the practitioners of those great traditions are still taking it on to date.
Yeah.
The finest example is the paramparavas, or the family traditions connected with the Kandi Perahara, the great Panikki traditions, the family traditions, the four main families connected to the Dalada, Maligawa, Tevava, or the sound offering, Ihalavela, Molagoda, Malagammana and Udwala.
Yes.
So all these, and apart from that, there are various other family traditions well established in Sri Lanka from the time of the advent of the Bodhi sapling.
Yeah, so now we may have talked about the history, the evolution, how Sri Lankan people were well connected, and how they got used to these rituals, prioritized rituals that they had to conduct to the Sri Mahabodhi, Jai Sri Mahabodhi, and also the Dantadhatu in later like centuries that we know in history. So diverting attention, now we have heard stories about your ancestor as well. So let's make a connection and show how your family line gets connected with Sri Dalada Maligawa.
My family connection, or my family tradition, that's my maternal lineage, goes back to the times of King Kirtisri Rajasingha, who started his reign in 1747. And the Dalada Perahara in Kandy started in the year 1753. And from that time onwards, my parampara, or my family had been entrusted the task, the great task of performing in the Vishnu Devala Perahara of the Satara Devala Peraharas within the Dalada Perahara. So I am perhaps the 7th or the 8th generation member of that family tradition. The known eighth member, but before that there were others who connect to the 17th century, to the times of King Kirti Sri Rajasinghe. Yes.
So has there
and
been,
my family tradition it comes from Algama of the Satar Korale. So it's called the Algama family of dancers.
So, are there any procedures that you remember that were given to your family separately, or is it overall the dancing and music propaganda that was imposed to your family?
Now in Sri Lanka we have these families who have kept alive the traditions of dancing and music, mainly the art of drumming.
Yeah.
So the in the hill country we have the Kandyan dance as it is known today. Of course, even the word Kandyan dance was something that the British introduced. Earlier it wasn't called the Kandyan dance.
Yes.
But because we have other forms of dance in the south and the western regions of the country, we have the Pahatarata Natuma, the low country dance, and there in the mid country there is the Sabaragamu dance.
So on and so forth. We'll discuss of all these important effects, and it's a must to know about all these cultural deviations and family lines that is being connected. But before that, we have to get into a short break.
The legend of Senkanda, the everlasting glamour of our heritage.
කන්දෝඩරට ඇසල මහා පෙරහරේ පින්බර සිරි විසිතුර ඔබේ වන්දනීයත්වයට පිදෙන සජීවී රූප සත්කාරය අගෝස්තු 13 වනදා සිට 23 වනදා තෙක් පෙරහර පෙළහර අනවරත රූප සංග්‍රහයක්ව POTV නාලිකා 20 150 ඩයලොග් TV නාලිකා අංක 72 මගින්ද ශ්‍රී දළදා මාලිකාවේ සහිභාවකාශයන් ඔස්සේ ඉතර මෙතර වෙසෙන සියලු දෙනා වෙනුවෙන් ගෙන එන අන්තර්ජාල විකාශයක් ලෙසින්ද ඔබේ බැතිබර නමස්කාරයට පිළිගැන්වේ. පෙරහර රූවරුණා හෙළකලා මංගල්‍යයක රූපමය සිරිය.
මාන්සේ සාරා සංඛ්‍ය කල්පලක්ෂයක් පාරමී ධර්මයන් පිරූසේක
1828 සිට පෙරහැර කරඬුවේ තැන්පත් කරලා දළදා වහන්සේ වැඩමවීමේ සිරිත නැති වෙලා තිබෙනවා. දළදා වහන්සේගේ ආරක්ෂාව සලසාගෙන 1828 ඉඳලා දළදා වහන්සේ වෙනුවෙන් වැඩමවනු ලබන්නේ සදාතක ධාතුන් වහන්සේලා තැන්පත් කළ පෙරහැර කරඬුවයි. අද මේ භාවිතා වන්නේ පෙරහැර කරඬුව වශයෙන්. එදා දළදා කරඬුව වශයෙන් අපි භාවිතා කළත් අද පෙරහැර කරඬුව වශයෙන් භාවිතා කරන්නේ එදා මෙන් අද දළදා වහන්සේ එහි තැන්පත් කොට වැඩමන්නේ නැති නිසායි. ඒ පෙරහැර කරඬුව කීර්ති ශ්‍රී රාජසිංහ රජතුමා දළදා මාලිගාවට පූජා කරනු ලැබූ පෙරහැර කරඬුවයි. මේ මෑත ඉතිහාසයේ දක්වාම එතුමා විසින් පූජා කරනු ලැබූ කරඬුවේ දළදා වහන්සේ තැන්පත් කරගෙන වැඩම වූ නමුත් අද වන විට එම කරඬුව තුල දළදා වහන්සේ වෙනුවට සදාතක ධාතුන් වහන්සේලා තැන්පත් කොට වැඩමවනු ලබනවා. මේ පෙරහැර කරඬුව රණින් ආලේප කොට මණිකෙන් අලංකාර කරලා රජතුමාගේ අගමෙහෙසියගේ මාල පළඳනාවන්ගෙන් විසිතුරු කර සරසලා එතුමා එදා දළදා වහන්සේ වෙනුවෙන් පූජා කළේ. එම කරඬුවම අදටත් අපේ සදාතක ධාතුන් වහන්සේලා තැන්පත් කොට පෙරහැරේ වැඩමවීම අපේ ශ්‍රද්ධා භක්තිය බුද්ධාලම්බන ප්‍රීතිය දනවන කටයුත්තක් වී තිබෙනවා. එම පෞරාණික පෙරහැර කරඬුව සුරක්ෂිතව මෙතෙක් කල අපේ මහතෙරුන් වහන්සේලා විසිනුත් කලින් කලට හිටිය දියවඩන් නිලමේවරුන් විසිනුත් ආරක්ෂා කොටගෙන අදටත් සුරක්ෂිතව පවතිනවා. පෙරහැර කරඬුව තුළ අපිට දක්නට ලැබෙන විශේෂත්වය තමයි කලක් දන්ත ධාතුන් වහන්සේ එහි තැන්පත් කොට වැඩම වූ අතරේ අද වෙන විට සදාතුක ධාතුන් වහන්සේලා තැන්පත් කොට වැඩම වී.
පෙරහර රූවරුණා හෙළකලා මංගල්‍යයක රූපමය සිරිය.
The legend of Senkanda, the everlasting glamour of our heritage.
So yeah, welcoming you back again. We have discussed about the relevant family of our show today. But as a matter of fact, you also have to know that Kandyan tradition is much interesting because there are many ancestral families that has been connected. And that from one generation to the other, these traditions are very perfectly preserved. So let's divert the attention of the other families that is being connected with this tradition.
Well, yes, the Kandyan tradition of the dance and the music or drumming spreads over a vast area in the hill country, and in the Kandyan dance we find three main styles or regional categories known as the Satkorlaya, Satarakorlaya and Mahanuwara traditions.
Okay.
So in this vast area, these different styles of the Kandyan dance and drumming have been carried on, from time immemorial, from the Anuradhapura period, as I mentioned, from the advent of the Bodhi sapling. They have taken on this tradition, this art, as family traditions. So you have the families of the Satkorla area.
Okay.
And if you take the Ridigama family of drummers, Daul and Tammattang,
Okay.
great artists who are connected to the Kandi Perahara even today. That is one of the main families that have been keeping on the tradition from time immemorial in the Satkorala region. And of course in the Satarakorala, and there are so many other paramparavas or families like the Ridigama, the Ahugoda, Doratiava, and so on, the villages of the Satkorala region.
Okay.
And then from Hatarakorala, my family tradition from Algama, Hatnagoda, Budavath, Aranayaka, and so on. And of course, in the Kandyan region, the Mahanura Sampradaya, we have the families like the Ihalavela, Molagoda, Malagammana, Udvela, who are especially dancers and known as drummers who have kept on the great art of the intricate art of drumming. And the dance families from the Kandyan region, Chittapajjala, Amunugama, Nittavela, and so on. So we have those great family traditions, and the members of those families in those regional styles still take on this tradition. So we are so fortunate to have all these great traditions as living traditions today. Most of the countries, the ancient traditions have died down.
Yeah.
But in this region of the world, the South Asian region, we are one of the unique and rarest nations that have kept all these traditions alive
Yes.
to date.
So, sir, as a matter of fact, now when these families are preserving it from one generation to the other, are there any specific items, are there any specific musical, let's say, diversions that they have to...
The repertoires.
Yes.
Yes, of course. There is a vast repertoire, vast repertoires pertaining to the different traditions. For example, if we take the dance, the Kandyan dance was originated and nurtured in the Kohomba Kankariya ritual, which traces its history back 2,500 years to the times of King Pandu Vasadeva. Now the Kohomba Kankariya also has these three regional styles.
Yeah.
The Mahanura Sampradaya, Hatkorala Sampradaya and Satarakorala Sampradaya. So the repertoire of the Kandyan dance is found in the classical repertoire is found in this grand complex ritual of Kohomba Kankariya.
Yes.
The dance items such as Yak Anuma, Kueniasna, Hatpada and so on. I mean, there is a lot. And then there is also the drumming repertoire connected with the dance rituals, and the drum repertoire outside the dancing. The Hevisi drumming tradition does not belong to the dance traditions, though it is connected and taken forth by the same families.
Yes.
There is a vast repertoire of drumming with highly codified techniques of playing the drums. And the drumming tradition in Sri Lanka is essentially connected with Buddhist rituals.
Buddhist rituals.
So it can be considered as a predominantly Buddhist art as of now.
Yeah. So since you mentioned about this, the people that they have preserved this for so long and these generations had been gone with these repertoires, I just remember to ask about the Panchaturya Vadana.
Well, talking about the Sinhala music.
Yes.
Connected mostly with the Buddhist temple rituals.
Yeah.
Such as the Dalada Perahara and the Tevava associated with the Dalada Maligawa.
Yeah.
Panchaturya Nadaya is the traditional Sinhala orchestra that performs these sound offerings or sound homages in the Buddhist rituals.
Yes.
So the term Panchaturya Nadaya, the 5 different types of instruments, or Panchaturya Vadya, if I may use the word there.
Yeah.
The 5 types of instruments are used in this orchestra to interpret music. And 3/5 of these instruments are drums.
Okay.
So if I give you the names of these 5 types of the Panchaturya Nada, we have, it is called Atata, Vitata, Atata, Ghana, Sushira. Let me describe.
Yes, sir.
Atata are the drums played with hands. Vitata, drums such as the Kandyan drum, the Gatabere, which is played for West dance or Panteru dance.
Yes.
Then the Vitata category has the Tammattama, also found prominently in the Kandi Perahara.
Yes.
And Vitata Atata is the other main instrument, the Daula. Vitata Atata, as of the current meaning, it means drums played with hand and stick.
Oh, okay.
Atata vitata. Ata vita.
Vita.
Vita is the stick.
Okay.
Ata is hasta or hand.
Yes.
So tammatama played with 2 sticks
Yeah.
is in the category of vitata, and daula in the category of atata vitata or vitata atata. Then we have the ghana category of instruments, the metal instruments such as the cymbals, the tali, that keep the main beat for the dancers and drummers.
Yes.
And the sushira category is the instruments that are played by blowing into it. All types of wind instruments, and in this case, the prominent one is the horanava, the small traditional horn that is found in the Kandi Perahara, along with daula and tammattama.
Yes.
Now out of these instruments, daula, tammattama and horanava are essentially temple musical instruments in the Buddhist temples. They are played day in and day out.
Yes.
Now at the Dalada Maligawa, the Tevava, the Hevisi, Teva Hevisi is played 3 times a day. Early in the morning, around 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
there is the morning Tevava, and for that the drums are played. And there is the midday Tevava, also played or accompanied by the drumming, and the Sandhya Tevava. So we have separate drum rhythms for these times, separate times. For example, during the morning Tevava, the drum patterns that are played for the morning session are called Aluyam Duraya. Aluyam Dura Pada.
Okay.
Then the Madhyam Duraya and the Handa Duraya for the evening Tevava.
Yes.
So there is a vast repertoire, and it's highly codified. There is the playing of the drums is very highly qualified. In the Atata category, the Kandian drum, there is a codified way of handling it with the fingers and the hand, and the handling of the sticks with the tammattama, and the stick and the hand with daula. So the codified techniques of playing, as well as a vast repertoire of rhythm patterns that are connected to, that are associated with different occasions of dance and Buddhist ceremonies.
Yes. So today we see that you are here with to perform
The Getaberaya.
the Getaberaya. So
Excuse me.
Yes, let's make it an opportunity for our people there to get an idea about these different tones and patterns that are being connected.
Well, now the sounds of all these drums are based on 4 main basic mnemonics, or 4 main sounds known as Tat, Jit, Tong, Nam. On the Getaberaya, these 4 sounds are played on the 2 sides, like this: Tat, Jit, Tong, Nam. So the 4 basic sounds give birth to hundreds of other complex patterns, thus giving us the great and long passages of drum combinations, such as the Magulbera, which is also played in the Dalada Maligawa during the Tevava. Now let me demonstrate one of the Magulbera padas, the Deva Padaya that we start with.
Okay.
this section is played 3 times.
Okay.
And then it goes into other sections like Deva Padaya, Ashirvada Padaya, Guru Padaya, and then there are 4 main long segments known as Vattam.
Yes.
So the Magulbera has a vast repertoire and is played in these the 3 times of the Teva Hevisi.
Yes, sir. So we'll get to that with all this, and yes, that was really interesting, sir. And sure, definitely we have to show the people out there what they sound like. And before that, we'll meet them after a short break.
The legend of Senkanda, the everlasting glamour of our heritage.
බුදුදහමින් ඔපවත් වූ අපේ සංස්කෘතික දායාදය බුදුදහමින් ඔපවත් වූ අපේ සංස්කෘතික දායාදය
අපි මාතලෙම හිටියේ ඒ කාලේ. එතකොට මාතලේ ඉඳන් කෝච්චි එනවා. ඇවිල්ලා මුස්ලිම් හෝටල් ළඟ ඉඳන් බලනවා. ඊට පස්සේ අපි කානිවල් එකට යනවා. ඉතින් ඔන්න ඔය වගේ අත්දැකීම් තිබුණා. ඊළඟට තවත් එකක් තමයි ඒ දවස්වල මහමළුවේ පොල් පුවක් කොට කපලා ලෑලි ඇතුළලා තමයි ඒකේ ආසන සකස් කිරීමක් කෙරුණේ. දවල් පෙරහැර ඉවර වෙලා දවසකින් හෝ දෙකකින් නුවර වැවරවුමේ මේ රත වාහන මෙතන කාර් රේස් එකක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඕක බලන්නත් අපි එනවා. ඇවිල්ලා ඔය මට මතකයි ඔය ඒ දවස්වල තිබිච්ච අර සුද්දෙකුගේ මේ විදේශීය ප්‍රතිමාව ළඟ තිබුණ හරිය තමයි අපි හිටියේ. උතන පාරත් වෙනස් මහමලු මැදින් තිබුණත් පාරක් ඒකත් එක්ක අපි ඉතින් ඔය කාර් රේස් බලලා යනවා. ඉතින් ඔය එක අවස්ථාවක්. ඉතින් තව අවස්ථාවක් තිබ්බා මේ මෑතකදී අධික වර්ෂාවක් ආපු දවස්. එතකොට මගේ පුතා පුංචි එයාට පෙරහැර පෙන්නන්න යනකොට එදා පෙරහැරක් ඇත්තටම තිබුණේ නැහැ. බෙර ඔක්කොම පොලිතින් වලින් ආවරණය කරගෙන ඉතා වේගයෙන් තමයි ගියේ. මොකද තරම් අධික වර්ෂාවක් එදා තිබුණ නිසා. ඉතින් මෙහෙම කාලයත් එක්ක දේශගුණික විපර්යාස, රටේ සමාජීය විපර්යාසත් එක්ක පෙරහැර වෙනස් වෙච්ච හැටි මම දැක්කා. ඒකේ ලස්සනම කෙනිය හොඳම මතකයේ වෙන්නේ ආපු පළවෙනිම දවසේ අලි කුලප්පුවක් වෙච්ච දවසක් බවට මගේ මතකයේ සඳහන් වෙනවා.
the everlasting glamour of our heritage sound.
That was amazing, sir. Can you explain what that was?
Well, that was a section from the second part of the Magulbera,
Okay.
which I mentioned before, the second part of the second Vattama of the Magulbera. As I told you before, it starts with Devapadaya, then Ashirvada Padaya, Guru Padaya, and then the 4 Vattams, and this was a section from the second Vattama.
Yes.
I just played it to show how complex and highly codified are these rhythm patterns. Now, to illustrate that fact, I would like to show the audience how these patterns are played that are based on the 4 main mnemonics or the sounds, the Tajit, Ton, Nam. For example, the sound Tat gives birth to a basic rhythm called Ta, Ka, Ta. The main sound is Tat. So the main sound connected with 2 other sounds on the right side, this is called the Bija Akshara, the egg note.
Yes.
Here is the Garbha Akshara that nurtures the rest, that nurtures it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the Ta gives birth to Ta, Ka, Ta, which
Yes.
goes like this. And this involves codified fingering techniques. The Ta is played with this part of the palm
Okay.
on the middle of the drum as a closed muted sound. And Ka, Ta is played with these 3 fingers, Ka and Ta with this finger. So Ka, Ta. And like that, there are so many other different patterns, exercises, basic exercises that stem from the 4 basic sounds,
Yes.
and those in turn creating hundreds of other complex rhythm patterns used in dance and drumming. So it is with the other types of drums as the Tammatama and Daula.
Yes. So now, as a matter of fact, after witnessing this immense, I don't know, I'm really like impressed of what we saw right now. So now, up to this point of our time, 21st century, there had been changes that is being made from the very early history.
Yes.
From the arrival of the sacred tooth relic to Sri Lanka and undergoing a lot of critical situations and events up to this point of our time. For the 21st century, we have got this tradition being preserved sometimes, being changed sometimes, that of course we can't stop. The change cannot be stopped anyways. But sir, now at this moment, when we consider the Asala Maha Perahara, it's not just the Asala Maha Perahara that is dedicated to exclusively the sacred tooth relic, but we see that there are 4 guardian deities connected. And in each of these processions that is being paraded, we see the same maybe immersions there, inclusions there.
Yes.
So anyways, this is a cultural unification.
Exactly.
So you have anything to elaborate on that?
Yes, of course. I mean, you can see a great integration, assimilation of many different cultural elements
Yes.
of the South Asian region. I mean, if you take the Satara Devala Perahara, the four guardian gods,
Yes.
Vishnu, Natha
Hatha.
Deyo is essentially a Buddhist god
Yeah.
and considered the next,
Maitri Buddha.
yes, as Maitri Buddha.
Yes.
Vishnu, Kataragama, and Patini are gods and deities who, and they were adapted to our culture, our beliefs.
Yeah.
So, being a country with a unique culture in the South Asian region, we have very close connections with mainly South India.
Yeah.
All parts of India, but mainly South India. The Hindu culture, because now from I think it was from 1739 onwards that the kings of the South Indian Nayak dynasties, the Nayakar kings as we call them today, came into power as the monarchs of our country. The last Sinhala king was King Veera Parakrama Narendra Singha, who was also synonymed as synonymed as Sellam Nirindu, because he was fond of all kinds of arts, dance, music, etc.
Okay.
And he was instrumental in creating the Kavikara Maduva connected to the palace, which came out with the tradition of singing panegyries,
Okay.
the praise songs
Yes.
to the kings in the beginning. But today, the Kavikara Maduva is one of the most important components of the Kandi Perahara, and they sing the virtues of the Buddha today before the Perahara begins.
Yes.
So I'll not elaborate on the Kavikara Maduva, let's do it another time.
Yes,
But
of
here,
course, sir.
with the advent of the Nayakar kings, the Nayak dynasty, there were many Indian elements that came into our culture, and they were assimilated into the Buddhist culture.
Okay.
And today we consider them uniquely Sri Lankan. Even the four main sounds of the Kandyan drum or any other drums, the Tatti Tonnam, are common to many of the South Indian drums, such as the Mridangam, which also follows this same technique of these four sounds known as Tati Tom Nam. So they have the similar rhythmic combinations, the syllabic combination, the Tarikita, Dovikita, Kadataka, Tarikita is ours, and they have very, very similar. So we have these this cultural integration. Some times it comes with not with a very good intention when the invaders come in, but still with the invaders, certain parts of their cultures have come and got integrated with our culture. But then the natural process of integration of cultures has made all cultures of the world so rich. But the important thing is, years of practice of a foreign cultural expression within a country makes it unique and makes it its own. Thus, though there are certain elements that have come from Indian culture and the arts to our realm of artistic practices and traditions, today they've become unique Sri Lankan traditions, forms of arts and cultural expressions. Thus, the Kandyan drum, the daula, the thumb matama, the rhythm patterns played on them. They are all uniquely Sri Lankan, and you don't find it anywhere else in the world, not even in the closest region of South India.
Oh.
There may be connections.
Yes.
For example, the murals, the wall paintings, the temple paintings, these from the Degalduruwa temple, the Degalduruwa cave temple, this style of painting also is connected and is coming from the Nayak and the Lepakshi traditions of the 17th century. So we have this close connection with the South Indian cultures, but you don't find the same thing in South India. This is uniquely Sri Lankan.
Because it has been well preserved.
Exactly.
That is what.
So culture is such an amazing thing that it has the similar things living in the close quarters,
yes, sir.
And then exchanging, but once exchanged, and then once these exchange cultural elements live in the exchanged regions or the spaces, then it assumes its unique form and becomes its own. That's why I said the Kandyan drum, the West dance, the Kandyan dance, the Komba Kankaria ritual, the West dance you find in the Kandi Perahara is truly uniquely Sri Lankan and not found anywhere else in the world, even though one may find certain elements, connections with South Indian forms.
Yes.
For now, okay, that's what has come into us.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you an occasion where some of our elements have gone into another part of the world.
Of course, sir.
Now when there was a decline of the order of the Sangha in again in the 18th century.
Yes.
The sole single-handed efforts of the Sangaraja, Saranankara Sangaraja, Asarana Saranankara Mahasangaraja went to Thailand with the blessings of the king and invited Upali Thero to re-establish the Upasampada or the order of the Sangha according to the Siam or the Thai tradition, which has become the Siam Nikaya today. Now, in Thailand, there is a drumming tradition called Mankla. In their pronunciation, they call it Mankla. So I found out that this means Mangala, auspicious drums. The sound of the drums exactly like the Daula and Thammattama, but very small. One person carries a small Daula-like drum on the shoulder, and another person from behind plays rhythms, and there's another drum that keeps the main beat. Now just the technical combination of the Daula Thammattama, Daula and Thammattama here. So the main beat is jing, ding, jing. Now if I say it in our syllables, jing, 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 and the small one, jing, 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 kita, 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 jing, kita, jing, kita, jing, tara, kita, taka. Now this sounded exactly like the Daula and Thammattama to my surprise, and when I found out, I was really surprised that it is our tradition. The Thai people think it went along with after the, I mean, when the monks returned to Thailand, this tradition went along with them to Thailand. So there, it's living in Thailand, in South Thailand, as a tradition called Mankla. So the integration is such an amazing thing, this exchange of cultural elements.
Yes. It's not only in Sri Lanka,
it enriches.
That is what I stated, like it's a spectacular enrichment that is being added, and there you have the Sri Lankanness everywhere where this is being preserved. So yes, and as the final question that I'll be asking today. Now sir, we see art to be a part of life. many people believe it is, and some in cases will not understand that. As your experiences call this particular topic, how can this art be connected to life? What sort of values does this art, especially music, gives to the lives?
Well, I think there is no life without the arts.
Yes.
Arts, on the one hand, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Arts is entertainment. You entertain your eyes by looking at a painting. You are entertained when you look at a dancer and listen to music, some drumming. You are enthralled, and you are taken into a whole different world when you see and listen to the Hevisi of the Dalada Perahera.
Yes.
So it's entertainment and also like a kind of a meditation at sometimes, taking you to a whole world of different experience, and then all these things, don't they make you a different person when you are involved with it? I'm not talking about the practitioners, but the spectators, the audience.
Of course, sir.
So, what is this difference that it makes? It makes you a more subtle, sensitive human being, so that you are able to relate to various other things, and more so, mainly, you are able to relate to the other human being. If you are a good listener of music, a good, if you can enjoy dance, but the important thing is, these dances and music forms, the arts that are well rooted in your own tradition, makes you feel very special. You know, when you listen to these drums, it may be a person who is untutored, but the moment he or she listens to these drums, the root values start coming up. So it makes you sensitive. Perhaps you never heard traditional drumming, even though you, let's say, somebody who's living in another country, born in America or England, a Sri Lankan, but when they listen to our drums, there is something happening, the roots. So that being able to connect and appreciate traditional arts, especially, make you a very sensitive, true human being. In other words, a patriot.
A patriot, of course.
It is important to be a patriot.
Yes, understanding itself is an immense value that you get, and that is because you have art in yourself. Art is so important that creates humanity. So as a result, in today's conversation, we talked about different varying aspects related to culture, music, ancestries, and then also different diversions connected to music. And we are once more thankful to Mr. Ravibandu Vidyapathi in joining with us today, sir. Yes, and along with that, with the hope of meeting you with another interesting topic, today we are saying goodbye. Stay home and stay safe.
The legend of Senkanda, the everlasting